You are now tuned in to Hustle Her Way, the podcast, a weekly podcast that celebrates and empowers the ambitious women who are rewriting the rules, breaking barriers, and making their mark in the world. I'm your host, KT, and I'm thrilled to have you guys along on this exciting journey. In a world where opportunities for women are expanding every day, Hustle Her Way, the podcast, is now your go-to destination to find inspiration, motivation, and great advice from extraordinary women as myself and other guests that we will have on this podcast who have paved their own paths to success. I believe that every woman has a unique story to tell, and here we're going to uncover the triumphs, challenges, and lessons learned for some of the most remarkable female entrepreneurs, leaders, and innovators across various industries. Every week we will have either a solo episode or an interview that encaps what a hustle her way mindset looks like and what you can do to find your own hustle. Thanks for staying tuned, and let's get right on into the show. So we are back. Welcome to season 2 of Hustle Her Way, the podcast. I know I have a lot to explain, and I'm going to try to explain it here on the first episode, but if I don't get around to it, we're going to make this into a whole series of life updates and things of that nature within each episode. But it is so great to be back. I took more of a hiatus than I thought I would because I'm going to tell y'all, burnout was real between everything that popped off. If you guys don't follow me on my personal social media channels, you would not know that I actually got a new job and upped and moved out of state. Yes, that is a whole thing. I moved from Birmingham, Alabama to Chattanooga, Tennessee the end of January, and I started a whole new big girl job. We are a director of public affairs now, so hand clap for that, hand clap it up for that. More money, more problems type thing. But nevertheless, I am so excited to start this new journey and finally getting that opportunity to get back into content creation and having the devoted time to actually get back into the podcast. So here we are with season 2, and as I mentioned, season 2 is really going to be not just me, but me sharing other people's stories. So I do have the opportunity and will have the opportunity to interview people. So this is going to be a great addition to the podcast. So I actually have a Google form, so if you like to be on the show to share your story, basically Hustle Her Way, if you're new to this podcast, Hustle Her Way is a way to share the stories of women and their journey and things of that nature and how we can help support each other. So that's Hustle Her Way. And just season 1, I was really just talking about topics that affect me, and I don't know, y'all, season 1 was really my journey, and season 2 and beyond, I want this to be about sharing your story. So if you want to be on the podcast, hit me up in the DMs at Hustle Her Way Podcast. You can fill out the Google form, or you can just DM us and we'll get the ball rolling. So let's talk about where I left off. So I think the last episode was about in July, right after my birthday. It had to be July, August, the last episode. So July, August, I can definitely say was a whirlwind because a lot of things personally, educationally, professionally, a lot of things started to change. And coming into that season of, okay, I'm 30 now, what does that look like? What does my career look like? You guys know I had started teaching. So it was a lot of things professionally that was going right, but on the back scene, it was a lot of things going wrong. So I will share this with you guys because it's a podcast and I can probably share more with you than on my other things, but I was contemplating on leaving my job way before I left, and I went on a back and forth thing about, is it right for me to leave my job right now? The job market is really looking bleak because I couldn't get an interview anywhere in my home state of where I lived. So that was a whole thing. I'm looking at, employees getting laid off, all these big layoffs for these major companies, and although things weren't what I wanted them to be where I was, I can say that, I could have put up with it until I graduated with my doctorate degree. So for a minute, that's what I was planning on doing. Like, I was like, okay, we're part-time teaching, we can build that up a little bit more. We can try to, stick it out as much as possible. And I messed up, and I asked God to send me a sign that this was the right thing. And let me tell you, if you're not ready for the outcome that could have on you as far as asking God for signs, don't do it. And I mean that with all sincerity. Please do not do it if you're not ready to take action, because what happened was, I'm going to share it because I want you guys to understand the whole gist of what happened. And I know I've been playing coy, and I've always been that way, especially when things happen, but I really feel like I should share my story because this might be happening with you guys, and I want to let you know that you're not alone. So there were many people at my previous employer who did not like me, point blank period. I was not an officer. If you guys didn't know, I worked at a police department, so they hired me as their PR manager. Before I got there, apparently there was a lot of people mad because they felt like that they should have gotten it that was civilians anyway, so they didn't like me. Then, because the way the structure is, I was a civilian who was over police officers. That rubbed people the wrong way. Some people felt like there should have been a police officer over me, even though the chief was over me. Anyway, long story short, people felt like I shouldn't know anything, like I was a detriment to all society there. Anything that could have been my fault was my fault. So I was the scapegoat for a lot of things, even though it had nothing to do with me. And I felt that it shouldn't have been that way. I went to my boss about it, saying, hey, what can we do to try to change things up? He looking at me crazy because he don't want to talk about it, because he's not somebody who likes conflict, and he has said this millions and millions of times before. So I felt like I was in a rock and a hard place, because there was no one really advocating on my behalf. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't so much my team, but there's only so much you can do when you have a chain of command and you're low on the totem pole like I am. So one person in particular I thought could have been an ally, and when a lot of different scenarios happened in that time, I went to that person, and she's a black female. She's up in rank, so I was like, well, hey, if anybody knows how to maneuver through these situations, she should, right? Because she's advocating that she wants this, that, and the third. She wants more women in the department. So I thought going to her would have been the best situation ever. And I was completely wrong. She was on the bandwagon that I shouldn't be there. That and when I say this wasn't a I think moment, this was I know, because I went to lunch with her. We talked about the issues I was having, and the words that came out her mouth was, if I was anywhere else, I would have been gone a long time ago. Nothing to do with my job performance or anything of that nature just because she felt like I shouldn't be there. Get it? Got it. And so when she said this, the first thing I'm like, okay, well, what do you think I feel like? What do you think I should be doing better? Well, you shouldn't be so hands-on. Anybody knows me as a manager, I always follow managers that I really like. The manager that I had before I got to the police department, she was very hands-on. She got in when needed. When you needed help, she was there. She didn't care. She had to edit a video, edit a graphic. It was nothing to her because she wanted to help if you didn't need it. And I did my employees just the same way. I did my team the exact same way. If you're struggling with getting content, okay, what you need me to do? I'm coming up, if I gotta hold the camera, if I gotta help people with a lot, that's the type of person I am. I'm just a helpful person. I just don't feel like I should bully or boss people around to get things done. Point blank period. So she felt like that's not the manager style that she wants. Again, she's not my boss. She is someone who is basically lateral to me, but I looked up to her because she had been there for a minute. So after that, I was like, okay, obviously I'm on the boat by myself. So I'm going through, I'm trying to do what happens, and all of a sudden this person gets with another person who doesn't care for me. And I can say that blatantly because it's been on record. They don't care for me, and it's okay. They get together and come up with a scheme. This is the scheme that Todd always have something to do with. So they decide they wanted to hire a content creator without my knowledge. If you guys know anything about my structure, I'm in a communications business. I am over communications at this police department, and you're supposed to come through me about anything that goes on communication wise. So they hired this person to sit outside but to do content. I then asked my boss, well, what are they supposed to do? Well, they're just supposed to help out with, little odds and ends that I know you guys can't get to. That was the setup number one. Because all of a sudden he started doing stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm like, okay, whatever. We can play this game. So I asked before he got on, hey, did you read the contract? Oh no, we don't need you to look at the contract, and we're going to take somebody off your team to work with them, and this, that, and the third, and you don't have any hands-on about it. Just out the boat. So I was like, okay, so I see what's going on here. So they hired a content creator. A member of my team is working with them. So all that person's work is now pushed on to me, and I can't get done the projects that I need to do. So after that, there comes a PIP plan. And if you guys know, there's a performance employment plan. And when you get those, you can basically, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all employers, like sometimes when you need to be put on a performance plan, I'm all for it, I get it. But in this situation, there was a lot of nitpicking. And I'll give you examples why. There was a flyer that was obviously a draft, that said draft, that was sent to this person who doesn't like me, and they sent it to my boss and said this was the final one when it said draft. That was one. Two, we do a quarterly newsletter. Now mind you, the quarterly newsletter had to be signed off on my boss. My boss was out for some months doing training, what was going on. So because of that, it got pushed back. Mind you, this was one time, but I was told that was detrimental and it shouldn't have been late. So I I knew at that point that they were nitpicking with me. And this wasn't even something from him, because when I got the plan, oh, and then it was a whole website thing that had nothing to do with me. I told them we couldn't do it this way, and I was told I had to that I should have still went that way, and even if it didn't work in the time constraint, I should have just said something, even though I blatantly told them that we couldn't do this on the website because we were going through website changes. But what do I know, right? Okay. So by that point, I was like, all right, this was right after Thanksgiving. Yes, right after Thanksgiving. So mind y'all, I told y'all I turned down the position that I'm in now in November. So I was like, dang, maybe I should have, got it. But I was like, okay, we just gonna get a new position. We just gonna rock and roll with it. So right after that, I got the opportunity to do a consulting gig. So I was like, hey, if by January, well, let me explain further. So they told me I had check-in day. So January 5th was the check-in day for this whole improvement plan to see how everything would have went and if I could have kept my job, basically. So I flew under the radar. I was like, okay, I'm gonna take some time off. I'll put in applications and we just gonna ride this thing out. So I got the opportunity with the consulting. I actually was not going to teach the upcoming spring semester because the class that I taught is only offered in the fall. So that was that. So I was like, if anything falls, if I gotta, my lease is coming up due, if I gotta move back in with my sister and figure it out from there, I had a whole plan together just in case I didn't get a new job. So mind y'all, this was the sign that I asked God for, because literally after I asked him, all this stuff started happening. So I was like, okay, God, you showed me I need to leave and I got you. So I'm putting this in your hands. I'm gonna send out these applications. I'm gonna try to figure it out, but this is literally in your hands. December 4th comes along and I get before December 4th, think the same week that I got this whole performance plan, the job called back and it was like, hey, we know that you applied for this twice. What happened? Why you didn't accept the position? And I told them the math wasn't mathing. If y'all know what I mean by the math wasn't mathing, the math wasn't mathing. And I told them what the asking price was. So they was like, okay, we'll get with it and see what happens. And this is actually the first time I negotiated, y'all. Very first time. It really was me building my skills and knowing my worth and all that, so I had to negotiate. And I was like, I really want this job, even though it's out of state. I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know what's going to happen when I move. None of that. I just know I want this job and I'm going to ask for this because this is what I need. But we're going to let it play out. So December 4th, so mind y'all, January 5th is the check-in date. December 4th, they called back early that morning and was like, hey, we got what you asking for. Are you coming? So I was like, yeah. My lease was up February 6th. I started January 26th. So I would keep my apartment in Birmingham for a week. I don't have to pay anything extra. I don't have to break a lease. The apartment that I found, I ended up taking some time off work. So I came up here. I did a whole, drug test, paperwork filling out, look for an apartment, got approved for the apartment, sister apartment to the apartment I'm living in Birmingham. So I don't have to pay an admin or application fee. So I just feel like the way everything was set up, that this was supposed to be for me. And even later on when I find out about, they actually hired somebody else and it didn't work out. So obviously this position was for me, right? So January 5th comes and this is when, so before January 5th happens, a lot of stuff started popping off with the content creator. He was misspelling a lot of stuff. It was just a lot of stuff, and I'm just sitting back on the back end like, okay, this what y'all wanted. I mean, don't get me wrong, the guy does some great, awesome work. It's just the way things played out and the way they put each other against us. It was a lot of stuff going on. When I tell y'all, it was a lot. So January 5th comes, and you know, my boss talking, and he was like, oh, you did this tremendous, I'm talking about, y'all, a tremendous turnaround within a month's time, and I was barely at work. Keep that in mind. But now you know you need me because the content creator is not doing what he wants y'all to do. So you did a tremendous turnaround, and you know, we're just gonna take you off the plan completely, and you know, what more do you want? Because mind y'all, like, even in this time, like, I couldn't go to training. Every time I turned in my paperwork, it had to go to this certain person. All of a sudden they lost my paperwork, I get denied, it don't even make it up to my boss, and nobody can tell me why. So he talking about, well, you know, what training you want to go to, what career development ideas you think you got. And I hit him with the 2 weeks, because at this point, I'm gone. It's nothing you can say. And I can see it in his face like, oh, we messed up. And y'all, when I say messed up, they're going through it. And I pray for them every day. Every day. But it just goes to show you what happens when you treat people badly and you treat them the way that they're not supposed to be treated. Literally, y'all, I can tell you, I used to go over and beyond to get stuff done. I was always working over. I was working on the weekends. Any events they got me at, I'm there. I'm telling my team, hey, y'all, I know y'all work a hard work through the week, so weekend events, I got you. Y'all, I was doing so much for them, but now it's like, oh, well, here, do you know what such and such is? Do you? I don't know what nothing is. Everything on my computer that y'all got. And if y'all wiped it clean, I'm sorry, it's gone. It's gone. And I say all that to say that sometimes God puts you in predicaments like this to show that it's time for you to go. Because I have a hard time, and I won't say it's hard dealing with change, but initiating the change, because I get so caught up into the whole, oh, well, I got so much going on this end, like, now I'm so comfortable that I can't leave, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And I have to figure out that sometimes when it's time to go, it's time to go, regardless of how much of a sweet setup it is. Sometimes it's just time for you to go, and it was time for me to go. It was time for me to share everything. So although I hate it, because there's a lot of organizations I was part of that I miss, my friends, my family, just the setup I had in Birmingham, there's a reason God brought me out of that to do something new in a different season. Now, does it look vastly different here? Yes, it does. Have I tried to figure out everything? I have not yet, because I'm still, it's just so much to wrap my head around. Like, it's only been a month, and just to see how much I've changed. Like, y'all, when I tell y'all I'm a homebody, I'm a homebody. Your girl be at home now. I used to be, I won't say I used to be on the streets, but I always had something going on with all the organizations I'm in. So I'm always out. I'm always at somebody meeting. I'm always somebody event on the weekend. So the most weekend stuff I've done is when my folks come up to visit me and we going to do stuff. But other than that, I'm in the house. And I'm just trying to find my community and find my people, but I'm really on a journey, and I'm really letting God lead me in this time, because I can say a lot of stuff in Birmingham happened because I forced it to happen, if that makes any sense. Like, I was determined that regardless of whatever was gonna happen, I was gonna get it done. I was gonna do this. But in this season, because I don't know what it looks like, I'm out here by myself, one. And two, like, I'm really out here just figuring out life, what life looks like at 30, and I'm not even trying to think about what's next. And it's hard because, like, now I have a financial advisor, which is crazy for me to have a financial advisor, right? So talking to him, and he's like, well, what's your plans in like the next 5 years? Like, are you getting a house? And I'm just like, sir, I don't know. At this point, this is where God leads me. Like, we're gonna put some money to the side and we're gonna do some goals, but outside of getting a car in the next year, I don't know what this looks like. I don't know if I'm staying in Chattanooga. I don't know if I'm going to Birmingham. I don't know if I'll be in another city in the next couple of months. Who knows? But I mean, not in the next couple of months, in the next couple of years. But I'm literally letting God lead me in this season, and I'm trying to stick to the plan that He has, because obviously it's the best plan ever. And two, I can say, although I worship God, I love God, I've always been a Christian and things of that nature, I didn't let Him in too much, that I always was like, this is what I want, and this is what needs to happen, or this is the next job I'm going to happen. Because if you asked me a couple of months ago what my next job was, I was going to be at UAB. I was going to be a director or a communications manager over there. I had that in my head. I was trying so hard to get back to UAB. So I was like, oh, I'm part-time teaching. I can get on campus and teach. I can find a communication job somewhere around here and be all back UAB out. Because I love working at UAB. It was down at the airport. Airport ain't got no jobs open right now for communications. So I was getting back to UAB, baby. Internships, I'm over here connecting with people. I'm pulling up old people I know from my internship, trying to give me a job. I was convinced I was going to work at UAB for the rest of my life. UAB me, please. And never, I can't say that that's totally off the table, but before I moved, I was going to work at UAB. I did one interview at UAB and they never called me back. So I was like, well, dang, that was, I was stuck then, because I'm just like, I wasn't applying nothing but UAB. And all the outliers of things like this position I was applying for, sure, but most of the stuff I was like, UAB. Well, I'm applying to UAB. I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, let me call such and such and see, hey, can you get me in touch with the y'all, I was doing the most. You would have thought by now I would have had a job. But again, I have to follow God's timing and what God wants for me. And obviously, God wants me in Chattanooga in this position, and I'm here. And I don't know what this looks like, what's gonna happen, but I'm really just in the season of trusting Him. So that's what we're gonna call it. This season is God's season, God's timing. Okay, cool. Well, that's as much as I'm gonna give you for the first episode. That was a lot. I thought I was gonna come on here and not have nothing to talk about. Oh, I got plenty to talk about, apparently. Well, like I said, this is the intro to season 2, episode 1. This is God's timing, God's path, and we're gonna let God lead more people to listen to this, get some more great people to interview, and that's all I have. As always, thank you guys for staying tuned to this podcast. If it wasn't for you guys, I probably would not be content creating. And maybe I'll talk about that the next episode, about really why I had to take a break from content creating. But Nevertheless, thank you guys. I appreciate you. Love y'all. Y'all are so awesome. And I will see you in the next episode. Peace out. Bye, y'all.